Hello and welcome to the Slingshot channel. When I tested the compressor from out of China, I found out that it's really easy now to order directly from Chinese companies. It used to be very hard, so you had to buy from a distributor that was here, and then of course everybody slept on huge margins. But now they make it super safe and super easy to order directly. And I found companies like GearBest, for example, have a huge selection of everything made in China, and it's dirt cheap. So I found that they also sell knives, and as you know, it's one of my hobbies. And they have knives like this one here, starting from now, €2.76. So that's what this knife costs, delivered to your door. It's amazing. So I decided to order a bunch of the stuff. After all, it's almost for free. And review it to see what a knife that cheap can really do. And I came up with a nice torture program. I ordered about 12 knives, and I have to say some of them I decided not to review because the design is too similar to Western original designs. So I really don't want to do this because I feel it would be unfair to the original designer. I'm only testing knives that I think are pretty original from out of China. Design, manufacturing, everything. Okay, now if you look at this knife, it has a paracord wrapping. It's full tang, which is really not bad. It comes with a sheath that is, well, functional, I would say. Not great, but functional. And it is rather sharp, and it seems like it's good quality. So this is 440 steel, so obviously stainless. And they say it has a hardness of 58 HRC, which is not bad. Right, keep in mind, €2.76. So let's test how well it cuts. We're starting with some simple wood. And that works well. Well, it's a bit edgy, but not so bad, and it really cuts okay. Yeah, and if you put your thumb against the blade, then you got even more purchase on it. The handle is a little small, but it's a small knife, so that's not necessarily bad. But it definitely is a functional knife and a lot sharper than any other knife that I've ever seen for that price. As I said, I'm applying some torture to these things. So this time I'm cutting into aluminum. See if the blade will survive. Yes, it's cutting into the aluminum. It also smells like cutting aluminum. See? And the blade, actually that is not the metal from the blade. The blade actually is fine. Not sure if you can see this well, but I think the blade survived well. Not bad. So this certainly isn't the greatest knife in the world, but for that price I think it's hard to beat. Okay, the next one is this one here, and actually when it arrived it was actually a lot smaller than I thought. That's really a tiny little knife. Look at that. Ain't it cute? It's all steel, and it set me back an amazing €3.44. And actually, it is really, everything is metal. I mean, the frame is completely metal. It has a liner lock, so it's a locking knife. And of course, it is not uncomfortable to hold. You just hold it with 2 fingers and your thumb. But that's not bad. And I think the blade is shaped much like Japanese carving knives. So it's good for carving. The blade is 3CR13, which is not bad, and it has a hardness of 55, so it's still harder than aluminum. Let's see how this one cuts. The sharpness is actually not bad. It's a sharp knife. Okay, starting with our piece of wood. You know what? Actually cuts a lot better than the €2.76 knife. Wow! Not bad. Alright, aluminum test. I'll start with the other end. It also cuts better into the aluminum, clearly. Huh. Look at that. And the blade is absolutely undamaged. Yeah, you know what, I could sharpen it a little bit. It dulled it a little bit. Let's see how it now cuts into the wood. can really not see any difference. It still is a sharp knife. And cute. It has a belt clip. Actually, you cannot put the belt clip to the other side, but I think with this size, it hardly matters. Nice! So the next one is a fixed knife. It's a Karambit. And actually, this one costs €7.52 for a full tank Karambit. And let's see, it comes with a plastic sheath, which is kind of clicking, not bad. It has a blade that has these ornaments on. I guess it looks fancy. I don't care very much for these ornaments, but well, why not? It is not super sharp. It's not untypical for Karambits that they're not super sharp. And also what I like is that the ring for the finger is big enough even for my meaty index finger. So holding it is really not bad. And also the size of the handle, I mean, this clearly is designed for Western hands. This is far larger than a handle that would be made for Chinese hands, which are typically smaller than Western hands. And yeah, I like it. It's not bad. I mean, for €7 and a few cents. Let's see how it cuts. Okay. Yep. I kind of like cutting with Karambits because, you know, they have this round shape and it feels that the blade has more purchase on it. It is not as sharp as the super small knife, but it's not so bad. And yeah, it cuts the aluminum just fine. And stays sharp too. Now we have another folding knife, and this one is supposed to be a multi-tool. Well, I would say it's a knife with some multi-tool features. Let's open it. It's a one-hand opener. And the blade has a very unusual shape. It actually, see, it has this kind of a beveled, little bit tanto style, but it's actually angled completely different than a tanto. And I think that's because it's supposed to be a multi-tool, and multi-tools should have some kind of a more sturdy blade. And we will get to test all this later on, because I promised you a torture test, and a torture test you will get. What amazes me is how sharp it is. This is a knife where you can shave yourself with that knife. Yeah, amazing. Doesn't feel very good, but definitely you can shave with it. Very sharp. And what I also like is it's a liner lock, of course, and a sturdy liner lock. What I also like is that it has this additional kind of little tool here that you can open. And of course it's like a rope or belt cutter. You can also use it to cut a safety belt, I think. And it has its own liner lock. So this now is like in a locked position, and you can really use it to cut stuff. Just simply catching something and then cutting. And it has, as I said, an own liner lock. Click. That I like. The only other additional multi-tool function that I can discover is this here, which you can use for nuts. And if you open the blade, you know, you can get in a little deeper, but you can't go in really, really deep. I mean, there's a limit. So no, for them it's a rather expensive knife because it has a two-figure price. It costs €13.76. I think it's a great blade for that price. Okay, let's test the sharpness. Wow. Look at that. Wow. It's clearly the sharpest knife in the test field. Really nice. Wow. Phew. Kind of hate of doing it to a wonderful sharp blade like this one, but well, it has to happen. Wow. I have a feeling this one carves the aluminum just as good as the other knives carves the wood. Okay. Alright, so major damage to the aluminum. Let me see what happened to the blade here. Okay, I think I can see a little bit of damage, or is it just aluminum that got stuck? Yeah, seems to be, it's more like the aluminum. Wow. That is a super blade for the money. I mean, for €13. Never had a knife that sharp for a price like that. Okay, two more knives to go. This one here actually is like a combat knife, a fighting knife, and it's from their high-end range. So this one costs 55 euros, imagine that. And it comes with a lot of features. It comes with a beautiful belt attachment, like a military style belt attachment. Really nice. It has a Kydex sheath and clicks in nicely. And now that's a serious hunk of steel. I think that's a 6mm blade. And look at the way how they actually ground the angles here in the blade. It's very, very unusual because there's like a step in here. I have no idea what that is for, but it looks cool, I have to admit. And yeah, it's a little bit Tanto style, but it has a lot more flesh. I was looking very hard because I thought maybe they copied that from a Western design, but I couldn't find another knife that is shaped like this. And it is nice to hold, although the handle could be a little larger, but I have large hands, so I have larger hands than average, I guess. Now what I don't like on this is that the blade has some kind of stains on the black coating. I'm not sure if you can see this well. And there's probably a reaction from the sheath. I don't know, but maybe you can remove this with some polishing material. I didn't try it, but that I don't like very much. It is very sharp, and it's a heavy knife. So we'll test how well it will puncture things later on. So this is G2 steel, and of course it's a micarta handle. It feels awkward to carve with this because it's so heavy, but wow. Yeah, I think you can really fell a tree with this one. And it is a little bit, well, is it front heavy? Not really, a little bit. So the balancing point pretty much is here, which is not bad for a fighting knife. I kind of like some heft in the blade of a fighting knife because it gives you momentum. Okay, now on to the aluminum test. Here it performs better than any of the other knives that I tested. Look at that. Look at what happened to the aluminum. Let's see what happens when I hammer down on it. Yeah, and the blade is so sturdy, there's no damage on the blade at all. A little bit of the aluminum, of course, it's always hard to tell, but no, the blade is absolutely clean. Knife like this from a Western manufacturer, I don't think it would be much better, but it would surely be a lot more expensive. So I think that's a great deal, great value for the money. Even though, again, I don't like the stained blade very much. Now we're coming to the most expensive and also most exotic blade that I had. It's a folding knife, and it is very special. It costs 91 euros, so it's the most expensive knife on the entire website. And it has special interesting features. Let me see if you can see this. So it has a folded steel blade, although when I looked at it, I was a little bit confused because I thought this is just etched on. But when I looked at other images from that model, other knives from that model series, I could see that this is all different. And now when you really look hard to it, you can see that actually there is a blade inside, and they probably attached the folded steel part to the left and to the right. And you can actually see here that there is some kind of a separation line. So there is an inner core, which is probably stainless steel, and then they hammered on probably the folded steel, and so it's mostly for appearance, but it definitely will give the blade stability. So wonderful rosewood, mahogany or something handle that I really, really like. And what I truly appreciate is that for this price, if you buy a knife from China, you get a blade that runs on ball bearings. So this is precision and speed. So this is really, really, really cool. I like that a lot because it's zero friction and it also doesn't move at all. So yeah, for that price, you know, for 91 euros, you're getting something. And it's also super sharp. I mean, with this one, you can easily shave. Okay? Well, yeah, of course. Sharpness is out of this world. It's one of the sharpest knives I've ever seen. So this is on par with the sharpest knife that you can get from Benchmade and Spyderco. Easily. a wonderful knife, liner lock of course. It has a glass breaker, which on this knife is a little bit strange, because this is like a beauty knife to me. It's a collector's piece. Why would you put a glass breaker on a knife like this? I have no idea, but well, it's also no disadvantage for sure. And I think you can remove it. Yeah, I think it's removable. Doesn't matter though. But it is certainly a really beautiful and very, very sharp knife. And this one I'm not going to use against the aluminum. The blade is so sharp. I like to keep this knife sharp. I will never get the sharpness back one, probably. But I'm sure it will cut into the aluminum. Alright, I promised a torture setup for the knives. And here is what I came up with. The Knife Destroyer 3000. Let me show you its features. As you see, it consists of a long arm and rubber bands keeping it under tension. And then I have this very, very, very complicated trigger mechanism that lets me launch it. And I am actually quite sure that this hits any kind of table that is hammering on much harder than you can do with your hand. So for this folding knife, I want to test how well it really locks. So this means we're going to clamp it in like this, and then we are throwing it against a piece of wood, and then we're looking at if that really holds or if it would start to wobble or even fall apart. I forgot to say, it even has a safety, so that when you engage the safety, like this, then even if you press the liner lock, you cannot unfold it. And for this test, of course, we will engage the safety. So as you see, it's now safely clamped in. I think this is actually held harder than any human hand can ever hold it. The first test, of course, is ballistic gelatin. And I put some cardboard on it because otherwise it will cut into it just from its pressure. Cutting the thing. Okay, and go. It cut it right through, the whole thing. Wow. Look at that cut. Alright, now we will find out if the knife will hold, if the lock of the knife will hold, because we will let the blade hit this wooden block here and see what happens to the entire setup. Okay, and go! Of course everything fell apart, that was to be expected. Let us see what the knife says. It definitely sticks in the wood. Okay, so it sticks in. The blade is absolutely undamaged. There's a nice cut in the wood. Let's see if there's any play in the mechanism. No, no play. Safety is still functioning. I have to say that this knife survived that kind of brutal test without any issues. Now I realize that the next thing we're going to do will destroy the knife somehow. It won't be the same afterwards anyway, because we're letting it hitting this massive steel block, this cylinder of 235 structural steel, which is softer than this. Well, at least that's what the Chinese say. But we will see how it fares. And actually, if the knife is usable afterwards, I would still have to declare it a good product. I secured the steel with a few screws. And now tell me if you have ever seen a more brutal knife review than this one. And go! Whoa! Let's see, everything flew apart. What happened to the knife? Okay, this is exactly how I found the knife. First of all, you could see that the opener here came loose, but it's just, you can close it and liner lock still works. So the knife is intact. Actually, this plate here came a little bit loose, but it's nothing dramatic. The blade sits absolutely tight. Does the liner lock still work? Kind of jammed. Alright, I think I know why, because I can see a tiny little piece of metal poking out here. Let me see if we can fix this. Okay, there was just a tiny little bit of metal that I had to remove from this here. It's got into the mechanism somehow, but now the knife is absolutely intact. Safety works, everything works. Amazing. And of course the blade suffered. It did suffer. I mean, look at the blade. Not sure if you can see this, but there is damage. But this definitely is not beyond salvaging. Just a little bit of sharpening and it will be good to go. 13 euros. Come on. Where else can you get a knife in that kind of quality for this kind of price? I actually don't know how the Chinese people do it. I mean, come on. How many hours do you have to invest into a knife like this? Plus the material. And you have to make some money too. Alright, now for this knife, a stress test like this would be absolutely idiotic, because with 6mm G2 steel, there is not a shadow of a doubt that this, you can hammer this with tons of force against a block of stainless steel or whatever, and it would suffer, but it will definitely not break. So at least not with our setup. So what I want to test is, can it punch a coconut? So we will put it in hammer-like. So this is how it's now clamped in. As you see, actually shouldn't be able to fail. Okay, let's go for it. And go. Well, with authority, I would say. It pierced the entire coconut. You can see he had entered, and it came out here and nailed the whole thing to the wooden board. Well, it's such a nice blade. I wish I could spare it from the Destiny, but here is a 235 structural steel bar, 12mm thick, and we need to know what happens when you stab steel with a knife that is as expensive as 55 euros. Okay. Wow. Bye-bye blade. And fire. Wow. That was pretty unimpressive. Nothing happened. Let's inspect the damage. Alright. First of all, there is a really nice nick in the steel. Let's remove the blade from its holder. It did suffer, but it's absolutely not beyond salvaging. Alright, so the tip, I would say it broke off. Well, that happens with hardened steel. You know, it's so hard that it usually breaks off and chips off. But, I mean, it's going to take me, you know, a few minutes on the belt grinder and this thing is as good as new. Other than that, I hammered it against steel and it still is fine. But it's 55 euros. What is my conclusion? Knives from GearBest. Well, if you are a collector and you're looking for something beautiful with value, then that is definitely not the right place for you. But if you're looking just for a good knife for not a lot of money to carry and to use and abuse, then I think it is very hard not to make a good deal on that website. But you know what? From all the knives that I tested today, the one that is now my favorite is the one that I was actually most disappointed at first. It's the tiny one. Because it's so sharp and so tiny, but you know, and 3.44 euros, I mean, come on. And it's made from metal. I love stuff that is made from all metal. So, anyway, I hope you liked this, because that's it for today. Thanks and bye-bye.